Welcome to MELfeed.video. We are commencing a live web stream service via youtube.com from Echuca, Australia. We currently conduct these streams on Monday evenings, with other times to be added as more opportunities arise. Please visit our website MELfeed.video for further information. This web video project presents old and new community TV programs. Please enjoy your stay with MELfeed.video.
Welcome to NAT Chat. My name is Paul Spanos, and today I've got with me Piero Delia. Piero Delia is a teacher, he is an artist on his own right, he's a musician, and his official title is he's a Northwestern Victorian Regional Music Coordinator.
Correct.
Okay, Piero, welcome.
Thank you, Paul.
Would you like to talk to us about yourself first and how you got involved into music? When did you first discover this talent in your life?
I suppose as a youngster, we all look for things to keep us occupied with. And for me, it was always picking up a stick, getting on a table, and pretending I was moving and singing to Elvis Presley, the Beatles. Okay. And I think coming from a European background, our families were always having parties. We always had the opportunities to sing and dance and perform. And I think by the time I was in primary school, I found a music teacher around the corner from my home. I heard him practicing with his family every week in his parents' garage. Yeah. And I picked up a guitar, and I might have been about 8 or 9 years of age. And I think after that, it just became an addiction. Everywhere I could take the guitar, I took it, to the point where if we had a family get together, it was always Dad, he had the guitar in the boot, go and get the guitar, had a few lessons, start singing. And I think, and then from there, the schools gave me opportunities to do things. And I just found that it was the thing that kept me focused, it kept me grounded, it gave me opportunities to do things that other students at my age couldn't do. Then when I was able to perform on television as contestants for performances like Young Talent Time,
yes,
enjoyed the opportunity of singing on TV, and then I just was addicted.
When was the time that you discovered you can be creative with the music? For example, to create something of your own.
I think it was basically when the school was running a talent competition, and they said, if anyone can sing their own song, that'd be fantastic. We created something very, very quickly, my friends and I, and we performed it, and the teachers went, wow, that's fantastic. Okay. And we won. And then I think after that, I just thought, well, this is not too bad. This is pretty easy. Just expressing ideas on paper, putting some simple melodies to it, and then realizing that it was very well received by the general public, and off we went.
You mentioned the guitar. The guitar is your main instrument, isn't it?
Correct.
Okay. And now coming into today's story, which is really exciting and very, very interesting story. You are a coordinator for Victorian schools in northern suburbs, western suburbs.
Correct.
Now, tell us about your idea. How did it come School of Rock? That's really exciting stuff.
Well, that's good. The School of Rock idea, which was created in 2004, was an idea to showcase students in a simple yet non-competitive forum with professional lighting, staging, sound equipment, and more importantly, in a non-competitive environment. So when we started in 2004, we had, from memory, about 29 schools and about an audience of about 500 students, parents, teachers, principals. Over the last 10 years, we've had in excess of, on any given year, up to 60 schools performing over 3 days. So we've had close to 17,500 students participate in School of Rock since its inception in 2004. Wow. So it's an amazing achievement, and it's a credit to the schools and parents and teachers who allowed this little School of Rock idea to grow and grow and grow.
Piero, very impressive statistics. Now we're going to watch the very first 9 years, some video clips of every year.
We'll do it again. Let's do it! Let's do it! Let's do it!
You guys rock.
Welcome back. We continue our interview with Piero, who is the coordinator of all these schools for the School of Rock. Piero, how you put together and how is the perception from the parents and teachers and students? That's your community. How they have embraced that School of Rock?
Paul, the School of Rock now runs on its own.
Okay.
The parents know how important it is for the students to be engaged. The teachers know that the students need to have something to work towards too. Principals are delighted because their students have an amazing professional forum to perform, sing and dance at. We have sponsors like JB Hi-Fi who relish on the scenario of having their equipment on stage being performed on. So really the perception is it's a very important part of their son's or daughter's journey in the music and in entertainment world. So for me as a coordinator, I bring all this together because after 10 years of doing it, I know the formula, I know how to structure it, I know what is important to the students, and the teachers that have been doing it with me, and there are a number of schools that have been doing this program with me since its inception. They now know what's at stake. They know how to best prepare their students.
Okay.
So on the day that the students perform, it is as good as it's going to be.
We're going to see a segment, the third segment today. And it's going to be the highlights of just June 2014.
Correct.
And I have seen the list of the schools. You have about 43 schools.
Correct.
High schools, in also primary schools.
Correct.
Can they work together on that presentation? How does this work with that mix of ages?
That's a fantastic question, and that was the idea by putting both primary and secondary students together, because I wanted to ensure that primary schools had a really good idea of what was expected from them if they were to continue their music journey to high school, and also for high school students to understand what's actually being done at the grassroots levels.
Okay.
And for teachers who are involved in School of Rock, it becomes a professional development. They learn from each other, they pick up ideas, and there have been many instances where secondary school students have been invited to play at primary schools as a feature act. So it's a really important cooperative and collaboration between both primary and secondary, and it works beautifully.
And how do you solve the problem? I'm a shy person, I'm an artist, but I've got that expression, but I don't want to compete, I'm shy. How do you have a special selection criteria for the students?
No, and that's the good thing about this. It's not a competition. It was never designed to be competitive. It was always designed to give students who were both novices and somewhat professional that forum to say, come and do what you do best. And there will always be students that will want to be on stage, the minute on stage, a little bit hesitant and shy. However, when they see all the other students doing what they do, it lifts up their confidence. And by the time they're on stage, and I've worded them up as the host, and I've told them, do your best and sing and dance to the best of your ability, all of a sudden you get all these children that want to do their best, and at the end of the day they come back and they say, when is this on again? I want to come back.
That means in this case they don't have that sense of competition or embarrassment, but they've got all the encouragement to be part of it.
Correct.
But in the meantime, they're students that sort of inclined to be musicians one day, or they like music, I suppose.
And that's why they do the show, and that's why the teachers have been supporting this venture now for 10 years. They know what they get out of it. So I think it's an important part of children's education to be seen, to be heard, to aspire, to be confident, and I think the School of Rock does it very, very well.
Now, that is a music. It's not mathematics. It's not science. And and how do you think the benefit comes to the students who participate in that? What sort of benefits the students have being part of it?
Well, it's interesting. Last year I had the pleasure of going to a performance, and we had students who used to play at a primary school who are now at the end of their VCE, who are now turning to music as a professional career path.
There you go.
And as one student said to me, the School of Rock gave me that push. I followed it on. Now I'm performing in venues that I never thought I would have done had I not had the chance to be in a very professional arena such as the School of Rock. So it's very, very gratifying to know that we're having a lot of students who are successfully choosing career paths in the arts, who have had a taste of what performance is like, and now have an opportunity to put something back into the system that they prefer to do themselves.
There you go. That means they create their own story, isn't it?
Correct.
Within the School of Rock.
Correct.
And I can assume that that is part of their own making. They can see something later on, and they look back and they feel proud of what they have achieved.
Correct. And I think that's always been the exciting part of this. It's grown, and now that we've got really professional sponsors on board, professional technicians, lighting experts, we give them that arena where they can really see everything from start to stop, and then I can say, this is the path that I want to choose to continue in.
For you, you're an artist and musician, and you perform on your own right as well.
Correct.
But you can see the parents as well. What sort of feedback you get from the parents? What sort of stories they tell you?
That's a fantastic question. The one that always comes back to mind are parents that said, our children were struggling.
Okay.
They were very upset about things that were going on in their life. They've written a song. You've allowed them to come here today as a solo artist. They're now performing their music, and as a parent, I'm sitting here watching them, and I'm crying for joy that my son or daughter has now had the opportunity to perform his or her song live to an unfamiliar audience. And all these other students, anywhere from 500 to 600 students, are clapping, cheering, and asking them for their autograph at the end of their performance.
Unbelievable.
So it's an amazing thing to see.
That means they can start be creative from the young age.
Correct.
So that is a lot more skills just playing in music.
Correct.
Isn't it?
Correct. And that's the joy that I have when people are writing their own material and then they say, we want to perform it. This is the right forum to perform it in.
And we do have the support from the education department as well?
Very much so. That's the joy of allowing me to run, act, facilitate this. They know that it's a professional performance. They know that the students are well looked after. They're in a very safe, secure environment. They know that their work is discovered by an unfamiliar audience, which is part of why we do what we do.
Yeah.
And more importantly, that the department sees that the arts is such an important part of the curriculum.
Okay.
And it allows children to showcase their work where maybe in other subjects they don't have that opportunity.
Excellent. In only a few seconds, what are we going to see in the last segment, June 2014?
This is just a little compilation of the highlights of some amazing students, solo artists and bands of this year's 2014 show.
Magnificent. Thank you for being with us.
It's an absolute pleasure.
And I think it's a good opportunity for a lot more people to find out about the School of Rock. And stay tuned for the third segment with the highlights of June 2014.
Imagine not seeing the world you live in. Macular disease is Australia's leading cause of blindness. Donate now to Macular Disease Foundation Australia. Call 1800 111 709 or visit mdfoundation.com.au.
down. They say we're too young now to amount to anything else. But look around, we work too damn hard for this just to give it up now. If you don't swim, you'll drown. But don't. Everyone, look so perfect standing there in my American apparel underwear. And I know now that I'm so down.
Pass you by the house in mine. Don't know why I didn't know. I don't know why I didn't come. When I saw the baby day, I wish that I could fly away.
Keep talking, all I know is Mama told me not to cry. She says, spread your wings, my little butterfly. Don't let what they say keep you up at night. And they can dictate you, these wings are made to fly. It's not about money, money, money. We don't need your money, money, money. We just wanna make the world dance. Forget about the price tag.
Ain't about the cha-ching, cha-ching. Ain't about the bubbling, bubbling. Wanna make the world dance. Forget about the price tag.
Take the price tag and take the cash back. Just give me 6 strings and a half stack. And you can keep the cars, leave me the garage. And all I need are keys and guitars.
Crying over you, and I'm so sick of love songs, so tired of tears, so done with wishing you were still here. Said I'm so sick of love songs, so sad and slow. So why can't I turn off the radio?
You can stay with me so it doesn't hurt. Or won't you stay with me? Because you're all I need. They say love is literacy. So darling, stay with me.
It won't be long till we return. Happy, shut your eyes. There are no lies in this world. We call sleepless desert. This day of hurt, tomorrow will be free. That's not fine. I'm tired. Now we just sleep tonight. Turn away. It's just there's nothing left here to say.
Till the weekend comes, just so I can pop a bottle of your love. Take another shot, I'll never get enough. Come on and fill me up, fill me up.
Oh, can I have your daughter for the rest of my life? Say yes, cause I need to know. You said I'll never get your blessing till the day I die. Tough luck, my friend, but the answer's still no. Why you gotta be so rude? Don't you know I'm human too? Why you gotta be so rude? I'm gonna marry her anyway. Marry that girl, marry her anyway. Marry that girl, you no matter what you say. Marry that girl, and we'll be a family. Why you gotta be so rude?
You guys rock.
School of Rock rocks!
Good evening, I'm Leonardo Puglisi. This is 6 News. Tonight, houses destroyed as a wild storm ripped through Victoria, residents comparing the dangerous weather to a tornado. Also, the Chinese embassy in Canberra labels the coronavirus inquiry a joke, even with the WHO now backing an investigation. Mixed emotions from students and teachers ahead of Victoria's return to school, but what restrictions will be in place? A driver re-arrested after 14 people were injured in this crash. And you've shared with us your last normal photos, although it's still unclear when normality will return. 6 News starts now. First tonight, residents west of Geelong have described a horror storm that lashed Victoria and South Australia to a tornado. Around 50 homes were significantly damaged, with at least 100 roofs needing repairing by the SES crew, along with garage doors and smashed car windscreens. One woman even suffering minor injuries. It comes as more wet weather lashes the east coast. We'll have the full forecast later in the bulletin. The Chinese embassy in Canberra has labelled Australia's coronavirus inquiry win as a joke, even with more than 120 other countries now backing that global investigation. It comes as more claims that coronavirus originated in a Wuhan lab and that China covered up the amount of cases they have. And China has now slapped an 80% tax on our barley following tariffs earlier in the week on Australian beef. The trade tensions began to escalate in April when our government called for that independent probe into the origins of COVID-19. A GoFundMe page has been set up for the hero diver who freed a humpback whale from the Gold Coast. He's now facing fines for interfering with shark control equipment. We asked some of you whether you believe he should be fined. Some of the comments included from ASR is the best. He said no. Jono also said no, and Sporty Nelson says no, he should not. So some strong opinions about that topic there. And to tonight's viewer poll, and we're asking Victorian teachers and students, are you excited to go back to school? On Instagram, probably our closest result yet. 48% of you saying you're excited, 52% of you saying no way. Some of the feedback coming into our Instagram page right now includes Jake, who says he goes to school in South Australia. He says many of us are feeling safe as we have 0 cases. Online learning is a very difficult task for many people due to internet, understanding of those tasks, etc. Hopefully Australia can get the cases down so we can all feel safe at school and work. Yeah, I agree with you there, mate. Josh says catching public transport can still be a bit worrying at this time when going to school. A good point there. And Jono says I'm in between, and he is referring to that question, are you excited to return to school? Don't forget to have your say on our Facebook, Twitter and Instagram pages by using the hashtag 6NewsAU. 14 people, including the driver, have been injured after an SUV ploughed into a store in southwest Sydney, and a warning, what you're about to see may be distressing. Footage taken at the scene shows that maroon SUV pushing the back of a white car in front at an intersection before swerving and driving directly into Hijab House. More vision taken inside shows the extent of the damage, with all victims treated at the scene before some were taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. There have been reports that the driver had a medical episode just moments before the crash. The 51-year-old is now expected to be charged by New South Wales Police after being re-arrested Friday afternoon. And staying in Sydney, a car has been severely damaged after witnesses say a truck reversed into it. This all happened in Walker Street, North Sydney, with the Mazda driver reportedly yelling at that truck driver to stop, although as you can see from these exclusive photos, he did not. It's unclear how much the damage bill was or if any charges were laid. Donald Trump has left some reporters baffled after he spoke about his results following his COVID-19 test. Take a look.
I think it's another day. I had a 2-week regimen of hydroxychloroquine, and I've taken it, I think, just about 2 weeks. I think it's another day. So, and I'm still here. And I tested very positively in a in another sense. So this morning, yeah, I tested positively toward negative, right? So no, I tested perfectly this morning. Meaning I tested negative.
Yeah, that's baffling. The US currently has over 1.6 million confirmed coronavirus cases and nearly 100,000 deaths. To tomorrow's forecast, Darwin cloudy, getting to a top of 29 tomorrow. In Brisbane, 9 overnight, 23 tomorrow. Sydney, rain tomorrow, 16 degrees, with similar conditions on Tuesday. In Canberra, 13 tomorrow, 16 on Tuesday. Melbourne, a top of 15, also cloudy. Hobart, 11 degrees, warming up slightly later in the week. And Adelaide cloudy, a top of 14. And Perth, 17 tomorrow, with light rain and cloudy on Tuesday. Before we go tonight, we put a call out last week asking for your last normal photos taken before the pandemic. We got lots of responses. Some of our favourites include this one from Jake via our Twitter page, 6NewsAU. He said it was the last time before he had the chance to bike ride and hang out together with friends before those coronavirus restrictions. That was taken in Outer Harbour in South Australia. And this one from our very own Jack Hahn, hanging out with some of his mates there. So those are some of your last normal photos. Keep sending them in and we might show them here on 6 News. And that is 6 News for this Sunday evening. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram at 6NewsAU. For all our viewers watching via MELfeed.video, stick around because up next is a double of Harmony and Diversity. I'm Leonardo Puglisi. Thanks for your company. Good night.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
Alleluia. Om Mani Padme Om. Allah.
Welcome. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with the Imam of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association of Victoria, Imam Jamud. Last week we were talking and we covered a lot of interesting areas, but what I'd like to be able to do is explore just what does it mean to be an Imam in Victoria for the association. What are the sorts of things that you do?
As an Imam, I believe that my role is twofold. So on one side, I have to deal with, internally in regards to the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association, that's taking care of, the needs of the community. That is basically leading prayers, leading in sermons, taking care of the youth. And I believe, taking care of the youth is an essential part of me being an Imam, and for that matter, being a young Imam.
Yes.
Because I can relate to them in more in regards to the contemporary issues regarding Islam and also, outside Islam. So within internally, that's essentially the role of an Imam. And another side of an Imam is externally, and that is basically connecting with the communities outside of the Ahmadiyya fold. That is connecting bridges with other communities, that is connecting, making bridges and connections with other religions and other, their representations, and working along the guidelines of, interfaith dialogue, interfaith relations, because that essentially builds up understanding and education, in regards to their religion and also Islam.
Right. That's a fairly big brief. But just coming back to the association itself, one of the key issues, of course, as you said, is the young Muslims and their, well, I don't want to bring the international side in, but this constant issue with young Muslims going overseas on what's loosely referred to by them as jihad, as we explained last week, is not exactly right. Do you encounter, how do you manage that? What's the sort of...
Because Ahmadiyya Muslim Association has such a strong administrative structure and so much emphasis is paid towards youth and their organization, because within Ahmadiyya community there's a separate organization for youth, and a lot of work is done, in regards to their upbringing, in regards to their activities, and in regards to their moral ethical values. Okay. I believe that if you actually look at Ahmadiyya Muslim community overall, you'll find them to be extremely productive citizens of whatever country they live in. Not only Australia, but if you look at them in America or UK, they'll be supportive of their local state, their local government. We have, even in Australia, I have a few friends who are in the army. They're serving in the army right now, currently, and they're part of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association.
Yes. Yes. Well, see, that activity within the association, just going to the website, that actually spreads across lots of areas, like the humanitarian work. You mentioned earlier, last week actually, about Africa. Africa is one of the centres where you have some considerable activity, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. I personally lived in Africa for 6 months and I saw this activity firsthand. And we have an organization, it's called Humanity First. Through this, we have built hundreds of schools, even secondary schools all over Africa, hundreds of medical centers and hospitals all over Africa. And then we have doctors who are regularly going in from Canada, from UK, from United States, who are devoting, say, 6 months, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years of their life for just serving humanity. So I believe Ahmadiyya community and the Muslim Association within the fold of Islam are the forerunners in providing education to the poor Africa, the Africa which has no education, which has no educational system set up. And Ahmadiyya Muslim Association is providing free education to them. They're providing services of free healthcare to them. And even right now in this day and age where Ebola outbreak is all over West Africa, we still have our medical centers and our medical staff who are volunteers again, who take time out of their lives and they come there and they're still working there in conditions which I don't think so we can even perceive or imagine living in this world.
Right. Your leader, His Holiness, he makes some observation about before you can come out as an imam, you have to go to places like Africa, is that
yes,
right?
And I think that's at the time, you see the wisdom of this when you actually go through this, because I personally grew up in Australia. I grew up in a world where everything was, in a hand's reach, basically. Everything was right there. But once you go to these countries, you realize what kind of things you take for granted. And
that's right.
I lived in a place where there was no electricity, there was no running water. I had to, pull water out of a well. And when you live in these kind of places, you realize what kind of, things living this world you take for granted day in, day out. And I'll just mention a funny story that once I spent my 6 months there. I lived in a village and I went back to UK. I was in my family's house and I was just so happy for being in a room where I can switch light on and off, with a switch. And my family was like, "What are you doing?" And because I was flicking it on and off, and I told them that, I'm just so happy that I can turn this light on and off, with this switch. And 6 months of Africa did that to me.
Yes.
So imagine, people living there for, many years at a time.
Yes. It sort of introduces a touch of humbleness to recognise that's...
And I think that was one of the main purposes of His Holiness, so that these young imams who are graduating from this theological institute in Canada, they realized that, there's this part of the world as well. We grew up in a world where, these things did not exist. So sometimes that awareness isn't there. And that awareness is only created once you go there and you live there amongst them. And I think that was one of the purposes of His Holiness in sending us there.
Very, very wise thing to do, because for you to have meaning in society, you need to understand every aspect of it. We're out of time, so we'll
unfortunately
be back. Yeah. We'll be back. We'll be back in a moment.
After over 25 years of broadcasting into homes across Australia, the Minister for Communications, Paul Fletcher, intends to switch off community television stations by June 30 this year. Community television provides an open access, free-to-air platform for Australians to connect, to learn, to educate, to express themselves, and showcases our diverse and vibrant local communities. But on July 1, it will be gone from the airways forever. Instead, it will be replaced by up to 5 years of white noise. The federal government has no alternative planned use for the spectrum community TV occupies, and will be unable to do anything in its place for years to come. There is no upside and no explanation. We ask Minister Fletcher to show his support for the remaining stations and to keep local TV on TV. For more information, email info@c31.org.au.
Every new line means 2 more hands. Join us, lions.org.au.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with the Imam of the Ahmadiyya Association of Victoria, Imam Janood. When you described what your role as an imam was, you mentioned also that there was interfaith work outside. You've only been doing it for a short while, I understand, but what's been happening? What have you done so far?
Well, it's been a busy 2 months, I would say. I've made contacts and gone into the interfaith council meetings of Casey Council.
Yes.
Also, Frankston Council, met with the mayor in regards to this interfaith dialogue. Because I personally, but also the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association overall, we are very big supporters of interfaith dialogue, as this, crushes any barriers that some people might have, or some stereotypes which exist, not only in regards to Islam, but also other religions. So we've had a few meetings in that regard. And also we have started regular tours of various colleges who are coming into the Ahmadiyya Muslim Mosque. And there's a small lecture that is given to them in regards to what essentially Islam is and what defines a Muslim. So that is, the feedback from that has been very good, and the staff is very happy that these children, they're not only just seeing the side that they see on media, but they're also getting hands-on experience to what Islam really is. So a lot of these kind of activities have been going on, and a lot of them are in the pipeline for future events.
Yes.
Just recently, we had a huge symposium in regards to serving humanity, and we had a number of MPs coming out, a number of mayors coming out, politicians coming out, amongst other local communities. So myself, but also the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association, we're always busy in these kind of interfaith dialogues and events and symposiums.
So His Holiness, what does he have to say about that? Is that part of a major thrust for him? I imagine it would be.
It would be, and before I got appointed here, I actually met him. He graciously except I had the chance of graciously being in his presence, and he emphasized on this point of community building, because as an Islam, as a Muslim, one of the most fundamental things you learn from Islam is serving humanity, serving your neighbors. I mean, so many rights are for your neighbors that a person, for example, cannot sell his property without the permission of his neighbor. So he emphasized on this, that make sure that you mingle with the local communities, you connect with them, and they see this side of Islam. Because essentially, when they see this side of Islam, they'll automatically be attracted to something that is so pure, something that is, that vouches so much for humanity.
Yes.
So he highly emphasized on this point, to connect with the local communities and invite them to your mosques, and go to events of interfaith related events.
Yeah, so it's really a defined role for you as an Ahmadiyya imam to do that.
Definitely, it is.
Yeah. What's been your impression of the interfaith community? Don't insult anybody, please, but what's been your impression of it? Like the tensions or the growths or the opportunities? My
impression actually has been, I'm actually extremely surprised, because I did not know that such a thing existed in Victoria. So I'm actually not sure if South Australia has something like that, but I did not know at all that such a vast and administratively quite well organized committees existed within each council. So I was very happy that these interfaith meetings are very they happen regularly.
Yes.
And they're regularly holding tours to other people's mosques, temples, and so on. So I was actually very surprised and very happy that such kind of work is actually going on within Victoria.
Yes, they're particularly well organised. It's since the World Parliament of Religions met here some 5 years ago, I think it was, and it's grown from there. But it is fairly strong. From your time in Canada with other people from other areas, have you been able to make a comparison? Like, it surprised you that they were so strong here? Had you experienced any community, say, around Canada that was doing that sort of work?
Definitely in Canada, because since I spent such a huge part of my life, 7.5 years in Canada, I was again involved over there as well. And like I said, I was extremely happy because I did not realize, or I did not know, that Victoria had such a, such importance was paid towards interfaith, because Canada and Toronto, being such a huge city, it's quite multicultural.
Yes.
And Ahmadiyya Muslim Association, just like over here in Toronto as well, they pay huge amount of emphasis on interfaith relations and dialogues and community building. And I'll just give you guys one example. Over there, yearly, we hold an event in the city of Vaughan, in the council of Vaughan, and we organize a marathon, and it's called Run for Vaughan Marathon. And so far, we've raised millions of dollars for the local hospital, which is to be built in Vaughan. So these kind of activities, and the Muslim Association all around the world, not only confined to Australia, Canada, or UK, we're always, giving back to humanity, which essentially is the teachings of Islam.
Yes, yes, indeed. And just taking it to the other extent, and I don't know how this would happen, but say Africa, say Liberia, where you spent that 6 months, is there any activity like that there? Because there'd be animist religions, but there'd be Islam as well there, Christianity. Is there any interface that you get involved with as Ahmadiyya?
The Ahmadiyya Muslim imams over there, they're very closely involved with their fellow Catholic or fellow Christian ministers or missionaries.
Right.
And also not only, with missionaries who are coming from overseas, but also local missionaries and local religions, and locally what they hold to be holy and sacred. Because it's not only about, Christianity or Islam, it's about, again, what humanity generally represents.
That's exactly right.
Definitely. So over there as well, a lot of activity in regards to interfaith. Of course, it's not at the level that it is as it is in Victoria, or for that matter anywhere else, But that's more because of lack of resources that are available, lack of infrastructure that is available over there.
We won't run out of a resource. We're out of time. We'll be back in a moment. We'll be back in a moment.
Hey guys, what'd you like?
Coffee, thanks.
2 coffees, please. What kind of coffee would he like?
Cappuccino.
Cappuccino. What can I get for you?
I'll have a coffee, thanks.
Yeah, 2 coffees, please. Awesome. And what kind of coffee would you like?
Cappuccino, thanks.
2 cappuccinos.
Autism. Change your reactions, change your actions.
Join us for the exciting world of inline and roller skating here on MELfeed Video as Inline Plus takes on the City of Adelaide on wheels. There'll be a diverse range of skating activities from all over Adelaide, including roller derby fitness and street skating. So don't be the one left behind.
So, more the merrier, more fun.
Inline Plus comes your way on MELfeed Video.
Hallelujah, Mani
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with the Imam of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association of Victoria, Imam Junaid. Now, before you can practice as an Imam, you were saying that you have to do a thesis. What was yours?
So, as I mentioned earlier, in the 7-year program, your final year you spend working and researching your thesis. And only after completing this dissertation can you pass, that institution, can you pass from that institution and become an Imam. So mine, I've always been interested with Christianity, with early Christianity, with what Jesus, peace be upon him, represented, and the modern Christianity. And I always, wondered that what Jesus, peace be upon him, would feel like if he went to a church on Sunday, or if he saw the cross and him hanging on there. So in that regards, I, looked into and researched modern Christianity and how it came to be and its existence, and compared that with Jesus and his life and what he was all about.
And you carried that through in fact, one of the triggers for you was the life of Muhammad in reading that.
Of course.
And you've alluded to it a couple of times, and the parallel, Jesus is always accepted generally, not generally, specifically, as a man of the greatest peace,
Yes,
known.
he is.
There are a few stories about Muhammad which corroborate the same thing. Muhammad was a man of peace.
Definitely. And, looking at the larger picture, I believe essentially all prophets who have come, they were they were champions of peace. Because if you look at them, the one thing they have in common, other than, worship of God or realizing the existence of God, one thing they all had in common was persecution.
Yes.
They all faced atrocities which perhaps we cannot even, begin to comprehend. So, with keeping that in mind, we are very well aware of what Jesus, peace be upon him, went through on the cross and even before that. So likewise, Muhammad, peace be upon him, was not any different. He suffered great atrocities at the hands of, his relatives, his fellow people, and, even during wars or even, at a time of peace, he would not have, it has been reported that his wife said, much later on, that we never had sufficient food for more than 2 days. We would only have, meal for 1 day, and we would not have food for, another 2 days. We would not know when we would get our next meal. So in that regards, one specific incident comes to mind where Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he traveled afar to this village just to give them the message of God. Nothing else. All he went there was, to make them realize that there is this one God towards whom, they should worship, and realize that there will be a day of accountability where they will be held accountable for their actions. And in return, they persecuted him. They stoned him so much that it has been reported that his shoes were filled with blood. And upon this, he took refuge in a garden, and an angel came to him, and he said, for the atrocities that these people have, inflicted on you, would you like me to, crush them between these two mountains? And Muhammad, peace be upon him, he replied that no, because my job is to, convey the message, and I am sure that amongst the progeny of these people, there will, there will be a people who will believe in God. And that essentially happened at the end. All of Arabia became believers in God. They became Muslims.
Yes.
Then another incident that comes to mind is when Muhammad, peace be upon him, went back to Makkah. As we know that he migrated from Makkah, his birth city, his hometown, and he migrated in a state where, his wife had been killed, his uncle had been, killed due to the atrocities of the Makkans. So much so his grandchildren, one of his grandchild had been killed by the Makkans, amongst other many relatives and many friends, close friends that had been killed in wars that were waged by the Makkans. So eventually, he suffered this 13 years of persecution, so much so that, he could not take it anymore, and he had to migrate. He left them alone. And eventually, when he does come back to Makkah as a conqueror with 10,000 followers, Makkans thought that today Muhammad will take revenge for those 13 years, or for that matter, longer than that. And he came and he said that, what should I do with you? And one of the Makkans stood up and he said, you should treat us the same way Jacob treated his brothers, and he forgave them for they had put him down in the well, and that incident everyone's aware of. And to this, Muhammad, he forgave them all. But this in fact was something greater than what Jacob had done. Jacob forgave his blood brothers, but Muhammad forgave his enemies, these people who had been the cause of killing so many of his family and close friends. So in that, when we put all of this into perspective, we see that no one prophet can claim that he suffered the most. All prophets, for the cause of God, and because of that humanity and sincerity they have within them, they go through great deals of persecution, great deals of atrocities. And Muhammad, peace be upon him, was not new to that. Jesus, peace be upon him, was not new to that, and nor was any other prophet. And in return, we always see a response of compassion, a response of mercifulness, a response of forgiveness. And this is something that we find, in every single prophet, other than that one should worship and the existence of God.
Thanks so much for that. And we're, of course, coming to the end of the program. Time is running out for us. Thanks so much for coming in. And I anticipate that, and would appreciate, is as you settle more into your role, if we could interview again and just see how the interfaith's going and how the building of the Ahmadiyya in Victoria is going. Would you be willing to do that?
Of course, first of all, it's a pleasure being here. I'm truly honored for being here, and secondly, I would love to come back anytime. It'd be my pleasure and be an honor to come back here.
Thank you very much.
All right.
You've been watching Harmony and Diversity. We'll be back next week. Bye for now.
Baha'u'llah, Shanti Om, Allahu
Harmony in Diversity is next on MELfeed Video, followed at 9:30 with Red Lobster Poetry. Then stay with us for 15 fabulous minutes at 10 and transports of distant delight at 10:30. That's what is still to come tonight here on MELfeed Video.
Hallelujah. Om Mani Padme Om.
Welcome. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and today we're speaking with Brother David O'Brien. He's a Salesian brother. Thanks for coming in, David.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
A Salesian brother implies you're Catholic.
That's it.
Where did it all start? You were born in a Catholic family.
I was. I was born in a Irish Catholic family. Not in the sense that they came from Ireland, but in the sense that it was an Irish type of Catholicism.
Yeah. My
Parents would take us to Mass every Sunday. We would pray together, a kind of a family prayer most evenings. My parents were unable to be involved in the hands-on things in the church, although my father would take up the collection at Sunday Mass, and in one of the parishes he was given the job of locking the doors after the priest left.
Right.
And a bit of an involvement in St. Vincent de Paul, but otherwise a Sunday Mass kind of Catholic.
Yes, but as you said, an Irish Catholic format sort of thing.
Yeah.
And what about education? Did you?
Education, I went to several primary schools. Started off at a state primary school in my first couple of years, MacArthur Primary School in southwestern Victoria. Then we shifted around a lot as a family due to Dad's work. We shifted up to Cobram, and I went to St. Joseph's in Cobram, taught by the Mercy Sisters up there. And then for the last year of my primary school, I went to St. Patrick's in Port Fairy, taught by the Good Samaritan Sisters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a different places, but Catholic with nuns, etc.
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
So then you went on to secondary education.
College. I did my secondary school. I did my secondary school at a what do you call it? Trade school? Not a trade school. Tech school.
Tech school.
Yeah, Warrnambool North Tech. The first couple of years, obviously, were just the normal subjects that you do, and then got a choice of the subjects in what was it? Form 2. Form 3, I think, and I did motor mechanics and fitting and turning as my main subjects, along with the other subjects that I needed to do, and I enjoyed them. I must admit, really hands-on stuff was a bit better than sitting behind a desk.
Yes,
For me anyway, yeah.
But you didn't go on with that.
Well, after I'd done my schooling, or it might have been in the last year as I was finishing off, we were required to go and do a VACC test, Victorian Automobile Chamber of Commerce, VACC, yeah. And I went along, my father drove me down to Colac, and I did the test at Colac, and my maths was never very good and needed a lot of maths in fitting and turning and motor mechanics and so on. So failed the test. When we have had relations down there, and we went to visit the relations, and when we returned to Warrnambool, we had a message to say that they had been talking to a friend of theirs who was a train driver, and suggested that I apply for the railways as a trainee train driver.
Oh, okay. Right.
And that was great. I did my training, which was for 6 months at Dynon in North Melbourne, Dynon Road there, and then was at Geelong for 6 months, and then at Warrnambool for 3 years.
Right.
Yeah.
So you went back down the Western District.
Back down the Western District.
Yes,
Yeah. And basically probably would have stuck at being a train driver, except that they had a kind of a change of plans about what would happen when we became drivers. I was quite happy to stay in the country and be a country train driver.
Yeah.
But they wanted us all to come down and work in Melbourne, and I wasn't quite ready to take that jump at that stage. So I resigned, and I was out there looking for work.
Yes, which you would.
As I would, yeah. My father wasn't prepared to let me lounge around at home and do nothing. So I was out looking for work. And a friend of mine suggested that I have a look at this place that ran camps and had a youth centre going and things like that. It was in the middle of nowhere, almost, you could say, between Warrnambool and Koroit, Warrnambool and Port Fairy. A place called Shamrock House. And as I had grown up as the oldest of six, oldest of seven actually, but six most of the time, I had always been, and also being the oldest grandson in the O'Brien clan.
Right.
I'd always been around children younger than me. So that was I had that. I always had that thing of being able to work with kids,
right?
Being around them, and yeah, so that the priest that was running the Shamrock House belonged to the Salesian Order, still does.
Okay.
He's still alive. He's 90.
Good
he was
heavens.
90 this year, so he's still alive. Went to visit him just before he turned 90, and is still very active in his mind, and that body's falling apart, but the mind's still very, very good.
Yeah.
So he's probably become my mentor over the years.
Yes.
I speak to him a lot about things, and we have a great rapport, and he can give me a lot of advice. Yeah, very good man. Yeah.
Sort of a bit of a father confessor as well, was
very
it?
much
Yes,
so, very
yes.
much so. Yeah.
Yes, because in that particular area, it's pretty. Even though he had a natural proclivity for it, it is a bit of a specialised area.
Absolutely,
with young people like that.
Yeah.
So you would, and we'll go to a break in a moment. But you at that point you had just worked with the children.
Yeah. Yeah.
After the break, we'll come back to your Salesianality where that happened.
Okay.
We'll be back in a moment.
Northern Access Television will turn 30 in 2020. We are planning a celebration night with a book and a special TV show about our history. If you're a past member or a volunteer of NAT, we would love to hear from you. For more details, visit the website nat30years.info and find out how you can help celebrate 30 years of media for the community. The 30th anniversary of Northern Access Television. Let's celebrate in 2020. Do you currently have a community service announcement on free-to-air television? If you do, you can now submit it to us as well via our website at MELfeed.video. We have lots of time to fill on these broadcasts, and we are sure to give your announcement a great run on MELfeed.video.
Hi, I'm Lane Beachley. Australians have recycled enough printer cartridges to cover Bondi Beach 12 times. That's kept 11,000 tonnes of valuable resources out of landfill. Drop your used original cartridges into the special boxes at participating retail outlets, and they'll be turned into new products from pens to road surfaces. Help us keep up the good work. Find out more at cartridges.planetark.org.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Brother David O'Brien. He's a Salesian brother. David, you got drawn into this activity with children at Shamrock House, was
That's
it
right,
called?
yes, yeah.
Where did it lead to you becoming a brother? How did that happen?
So basically, with the work that I did at Shamrock House, which involved running camps during school holidays, but also a small youth centre, and we had a communication letter writing and a newsletter that went out to kids from all over Australia. And it was a thing called the 12 Star Club.
Right.
And many people were involved as members of that club right throughout Australia. And so we would write letters and send the I think it was a quarterly newsletter that we sent out to each of those kids. So being involved in that and working within that and learning how to operate with young people in what they call the Salesian style.
Yeah.
Using the methods that Don Bosco used in the 1800s when he worked with children and adapting them to the 20th century or now the 21st century.
Yes.
Learning how to, not in the Salesian ethos, if you like, is more about gentleness. Is more about the preventative system, as they call it, which is a very complicated system, but basically means instead of yelling at a kid for something that he's done wrong, trying to set it up so that he or she doesn't do the wrong thing. That all the elements are there for them to go on a kind of a smooth path and so on. Yeah. So that was taught to me during those times.
Yes.
In 1981, I had the privilege of going over to work in England and Ireland, and first of all we did a pilgrimage in the Salesian places in Italy and France and so on, and then from there I worked in England for 2 months and in Ireland for 3 months, and with Salesians in Salesian communities and so on, even though I wasn't myself a Salesian at that stage.
No.
So I was still a layperson, and so picked up more from that experience.
Had you actually put your hand up at that point? Or
I had. No, I didn't till I came back.
Right.
I didn't sort of say anything, but the thought was already there. The incidences or the circumstances that were there. The fact that I grew up, looking after children when I was growing up. The fact that I'd worked at Shamrock House as a layperson and involved in a lot of work with children, and then being overseas and working with different children in different countries with the same kind of thing operating. Then I sort of thought to myself, well, I think this could be something that I could take on as a full time in my life. Yeah.
What was it that impressed you about Salesianality? You mentioned the rules, but in those two places, in UK and in Ireland.
Well, I think it was basically the same thing. It's an interesting thing that I guess in religious orders, people just see one sphere of it. They see people working in schools or in youth centres or in hostels or in other areas and just think that one thing. But in order for all that to happen, someone has got to kind of step out of the square, and take an initiative. And religious orders, the foundation of religious orders was someone stepping out of the box, someone saying, I think there's a better way that we can do this. There's a way that we can look after kids, so let's step out of the box and see what other ways there are of doing it.
Okay, so Don Bosco actually created something different. It's not just Catholic priests and brothers working with children.
Yeah.
There's
a way of doing it, a method of doing it.
Yes.
Yeah. And Don Bosco actually was quite interesting. He was a little bit different to some of the other founders of orders, because some of them would try something out that wouldn't work, and so that, you know, we'll give that one, we'll wipe that one. Whereas Don Bosco would look at something and say, yeah, that's a good method, and I'll take a little bit from that method, and I'll take a little bit from that method and that one, and I can do it better. You know, I think I can make it work better, and that's the way Don Bosco operated. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So okay, you came back and you started to feel, hey, there's something happening here.
Yeah. So I went along to Father Murphy, who was the priest that and he said at the start, he said, give it another 12 months.
Right.
You know, you've got all the enthusiasm, you just come back from overseas, you probably just need 12 months to disseminate a little bit, think about it,
right.
you know. So I did, I took that, and I still felt fairly strongly after that time that's what I wanted to do. So I went along to see the provincial of the Salesians at that time, and one thing led to another, and I started my pre-novitiate in 1983, and my novitiate in 84, and progressed along the track like that.
And where was that? Where did you start?
The pre-novitiate was at Oakley.
Right.
We had our pre-novitiate at Oakley there. There was also other ones there who are older, who are going through their theology and that sort of thing. So it was working. It was quite interesting to see them at work as well. And then from Oakley, we did our novitiate at Listerfield.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like an interesting process.
Yeah.
Let's go back to have a look at where it went from there, because we'll go to a break.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll be back in a moment.
Every time you shop, the choices you make affect our community. It is important to select Australian products made by Aussie-owned companies. Our food security means quality and peace of mind. Your purchasing power keeps your dollars multiplying in our economy, keeping jobs, profits and decisions being made right here, which is better for your children.
So the next time you buy, look for the AusBuy logo. It makes all the difference.
Hi, I'm Leonardo Puglisi from the 6 News team. In these tough times, it's important to keep your family and your friends safe by listening to government regulations. Avoid outdoor activity with the exception of exercise and getting essential items, as well as medical care. Remember, we're all in this together.
Tick, 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 tick. Food.
Tick, 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 tick. Festivals.
All make up 15 fabulous minutes.
In a half-hour special.
Presented to you by Jacqueline and Steve.
Every week. Time's up.
Hallelujah. Mani
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Brother David O'Brien. He's a Salesian brother. Okay, we've just gone through our novitiate.
Yep.
Bang, where do you go?
Well, from there, there was a couple of things that happened from that. When I was doing my pre-novitiate, I did a little bit of a catering course at Box Hill TAFE to get myself a trade, so to speak.
Yes.
And then once I'd finished my novitiate, it was time to think of something in terms of a more academic area to work in. And I'm not an overly academic person. So I did a course at National Pastoral Institute, which no longer exists.
Okay.
But I did a diploma of pastoral ministry, and I kind of specialised, if you like, in youth work in that as a main component. But what that allowed me to do is to have the possibility of working in a parish as a pastoral worker.
Yep.
And the youth component would mean that I could work as a pastoral care worker in the youth work.
area. Right.
I've never ever used it in that context, but it's come in handy in various things that I've done since. After I'd finished my time at Listerfield, which is post-novitiate, as they call it.
Right.
So I did that over 2 years, and I got a lot out of that. My way of operating before that had always been out of a simplistic background but working or doing the pastoral course at National Pastoral Institute helped me to work in a more adult way of my faith.
Yes.
So instead of saying, I suppose I could use the context of the old catechism where, who is God? God is, and that type of thing.
Yes.
And that's kind of the simplistic kind of childish way of looking at it. Whereas doing this course taught me to think it in an adult perspective.
Right.
Who is God?
Yeah.
For me, God is more than just that fella with the long white beard. In fact, I class myself as that. No, I couldn't. But I could think of it in a more adult way.
Right.
An adult way of looking at faith. Who God, and God. And as time has gone on, thinking in that way has taught me the fact that God is more than the God that I know.
Yeah.
My next door neighbour who's Muslim thinks of God in another way, and my other neighbour who's Hindu thinks of God in another way. So God is more diverse than just that person.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
And fits the thrust of this program, of course. Have you had any sort of, what were your motivations? The epiphany, was it a bright light on top of a mountain, or what?
No. I've never had that kind of a thing. I've heard people mention that. No, I've thought it, but for me, it's a lot of circumstances together, different things that happen. People say things. Things like watching a child experience something new in their lives. It's a small step, or even a child walking or something like that. In my case, watching a child jump on the trampoline, it's a God experience. It's something that kind of draws. There's all sorts of circumstances and things that happen that you kind of say, well, why does that happen? There's something stronger doing this, and
Yes.
and I kind of call it a God experience. So sets of circumstances that drew me, closer to, and I suppose the biggest circumstance in terms of drawing me closer to God is, the circumstance or the gift of reading and learning about Don Bosco and what he did and how he worked, and other things like that.
You've obviously got a passion for it. What do you do to maintain that passion? For how long have you been?
I've been a Salesian brother now for probably about 30 years.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Close to 30 years.
So what keeps you fired?
What keeps me fired is various things that I've done. My main area, my main job or work or whatever it is working in a youth centre in the middle of Brunswick. And looking after hundreds of kids, and it's a passion, and I love it, and I get up every day for it. I like to have my days off as well, but I don't mind getting out of bed and going through the motions in order to be there when the youth centre opens.
Right.
And maybe there's a school group going to be there, so I'm there for the school group that could be there at 9 o'clock or 10:30, whatever time they come.
Right.
And then our opening sessions in the afternoons from 3:15 till 5, and then birthday parties in the evening. So it's kind of sometimes from 9:30 in the morning till 8:30 at night, full on sometimes.
It's interesting.
Yeah, so, and I enjoy that. I love it. I really do. You always get something out of it. And, you meet new kids, or you're working with older kids, and it's a real passion. It's something I love doing.
Yes.
Then there's my other little hats that I wear, and among them, I love music. I play in a band that from time to time comes out.
I think that we might slide into the end, because I'd sort of like to invite you to come back next week. And if we go too long, I won't be able to do that. Would you come back next week and we talk more? We can talk more about the band.
All right.
And we can also talk about your enthusiasm, again, for Salesianality, because that reminded me of Don Bosco himself, who spent his entire life with that enthusiasm.
Yeah.
You've been watching Harmony and Diversity. We'll be back next week.
Baha'u'llah, Shanti Om, Allahu
Community television is a part of Australia's media landscape, and it's yours. On July 1, it could be gone from the airwaves forever. In its place, the Minister for Communications, Paul Fletcher, intends to replace a vibrant and diverse media sector with years and years and years of white noise. When there is no cost to the Australian government to keep community television on the air, and in the absence of a viable alternative, we ask Minister Fletcher to keep local TV on TV. For more information, email info@c31.org.au.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV. The following program contains an MA classification and may contain adult themes and coarse language. MELfeed.video advises that it is suitable for viewers aged 15 plus.
Nothing's better than love. I'm not a gambler, but I'd better bet that tangle of flesh and that glisten of sweat hitch a ride in the minds of the most innocent to the most rough, and the longing for bed hits most of us before we're fatigued from the moment we get up to the moment we leave this vertical world has a jealous vendetta against all the lovers who want to forget it. Admit one, admit it, a ticket to pleasure. Yes, there's nothing better than love. But sometimes Adonis has to be honest, tells Venus he's sorry, she just hasn't got it tonight, and the time is getting away, and maybe he'd stay if she'd said something clever, if her heels were higher, or her eyes were wider, or that was real leather, or she was just better. But it's home to nothing, or whatever he does when he leaves, and she wonders whether she's dumb and whether he's getting fed up, and maybe this means he'll give her the shove and tell her they're done in less than a month. It's anyone's guess what this could suggest when he says nothing's better than love. How can nothing be better than love? Well, nothing, my darling. She's got charisma. Head to foot, she's a lady like you, only slimmer. You bring out the caveman, she brings out the thinker. She listens with luster, but you interrupt us. The minute you've left, she eases my mind. She asks for so little and repays me in kind. With a silence as fine as the light in your eyes, she won't spend my money and she never cries. Doesn't argue with family or burgle my time. Doesn't tell me I'm handsome, but damn it, she tries. This nothing I'm loving, she's really my type. She doesn't get jealous, she's never possessive, won't stress me with her friends or see other fellas. No pressure in bed and I won't get her pregnant. You've got to accept that by hell she's impressive. A breath of fresh air in a world of excess. We have our affair without fear or distress or despair or that time of the month. She's willing to share. I don't want to break up. She's something precious, so please get along. I just need her touch as much as I need us, 'cause as such, nothing's better than love.
Excuse me while I sit in the corner and scream. It just seems to me the whole fracking world's forgotten how to dream. Even our good guys are mean. Our poets are just letting off steam. Our artists are chasing the buck. Our musicians are trying to have a good time or earning a dime and spending it on beer and not having a care, and I can't help but stare at the futility of it all. We can't even tear down the wall. It's been done already. And what good did it do? If only for a few. At least when it was there, we had something to steer that didn't shoot at us or blow us up. Something to fear that didn't shoot at us or blow us up. And protests were meaningful. At least the public took notice. These days, a street full of people is just another 5-second soundbite sandwiched between the grey men we follow like sheep on our TV screens. Just another excuse to provoke the police into beating some poor bastard up to get some good vision for the nightly news. And revolution still only means killing people. In order to kill more people, as an excuse for killing more people, and the dead still stay dead, and the living die of cancer or AIDS or something even more nasty, like apathy or economic collapse. And most people just find some excuse to fry the science amps with some sort of drug or other stimulus like money or power or sex or pain and death. And I've run out of breath, so I think I'll just go and sit in the corner and scream.
It was more than the avid eye contact that kept our connection intact. In fact, it was our long, undeniable bond that stood so strong and blasted beyond what could ever be seen or heard. It was at times berserk and absurd, jealous and venomous, but it was easily overshadowed by the irrefutable zealous. You were injurious and detrimental to my everyday health. But regardless of that, shit, I didn't want anyone else. It was a never-ending cycle that I wanted to end, yet I would cycle on my old-school bicycle just to see your lovely face, or to be graced by your mesmeric aura, and to be laced and embraced like bees with the beautiful flowering flora. I was used to being chased, but with you I decided to chase because you're way too special and incredible to ever be replaced. We had our ups and downs, but the bad outweighed the good. You treated me well, but not as well as you should. You recognized and realized that you had a queen, but yet you still let your ego and drama reign supreme. We went to war, to hell and back. I bestowed endless love, yet you still continued to ransack elsewhere. Nothing could compare to what we had shared. But eventually the pain became too much to bear. I obtained too much damage. I gained nothing from the rampage. Our undisputable tie unraveled. Different directions is where our feelings travel. The love was constantly tested and battled. And every time we'll lose. Despite us having disparate views, in a heartbeat I would choose you. I only wanted you and us to be happy, but we continued to argue, so I gave that goal up gladly. Unfathomably, you broke me. The man whom I thought was a saint, whose physicality made me faint, who personified being charming, intellectual, and quaint, soon painted an image that I couldn't erase from my memory. I treasured you, but our correlation left me in agony, so I decided to give up. I had had enough. I believed I didn't have to leave and that I could overcome the sting and zing of this thing, but the hurt sing, it ring too deep to look past, which is why I chose to move forward and leave it all in the past. They say good things aren't supposed to last forever. I adored you, but we're just not meant to be together.
We are born into this bipolar world full of enemies and friends, love and hate. We are born into this, into times and places that are not of our choosing, left to struggle out of the unknown and unnamed. We grow up in this, amongst strangers and wars and languages who arrived before we did. We make our bed in this, in harsh cold winters with hailstorms that crack the roof and bone, drying summer droughts that crack the earth. We grow old in this, taking love where we find it and singing songs where we can. And we die like this, leaving everything behind except for the faint tune of an old melody lingering in the air.
This season, we need your help to control Queensland fruit fly in our region. Your infested fruit is destroying your neighbour's harvest and the livelihood of our orchardists and their families. Pick up and dispose of fallen fruit. Infected fruit in your backyard is a breeding ground for fruit fly. Monitor fruit fly numbers by hanging traps in your fruit trees. Traps can be purchased at your local hardware stores. Net your fruit trees and susceptible vegetables with fruit fly specific netting. Contact us for information.
The tax office can take money directly out of people's accounts, but you're not allowed to know. The elderly are being abused and neglected in nursing homes, but you're not allowed to know. The government can raid journalists for reporting the truth if it says you're not allowed to know. It couldn't happen in Australia. It's happening now. When the government hides the truth from you, what are they covering up? Authorised by Australia's Right to Know, Sydney.
Wow, she looks like she had a big night.
Yeah. Nice glasses, Alice.
Hey, Alice. Do you want me to put the blinds down?
Autism. Change your reactions, change your actions.
You're there when they can't sleep. You're there when they forget. But who's there when they're at school? Asthma can be serious. It affects 1 in 10 Australians and claims 400 lives each year. Does anyone at your school know what to do in an asthma emergency? Log on to asthmafriendlyschools.org.au and find out if your school is asthma friendly. Shouldn't every school be asthma friendly?
In a forest of computers, a lily emerges and we guillotine heads and tails from a spineless magazine. It's been 6 years since we swapped compliments in the kitchen and you made my appendix twist with disbelief. But even after all these years, when you stand so close to me, my knees turn into spheres of jelly. My pupils dilate at the sight of your chocolate hair and hazelnut eyes. My nostrils and lungs are intoxicated by the fragrance of your pheromones. The taste buds on my tongue effervesce in the presence of your luscious breasts. And your peppermint breath transforms the skin beneath my beard into a blushing tint of red. Beneath trees of broccoli, we elope for a coffee, and I think wishfully that maybe somehow, if I wasn't, if you weren't, you make note of our paradoxical condition and christen me with the title of a walking contradiction. My attempts to share my open mind only result in verbal suicide. Mannequins read the broadsheets and laugh at the sparks that arc between us. For 3 hours, wanton words spill from our hatches and we suck on stolen strawberries. I wasn't lying when I told you that I would sacrifice my right hand in the mouth of truth just for you to run your fingers through my hair. As a mug of coffee becomes a jug of wine, erotic visions erupt in my volcanic mind's eye. An image of you undressing on the bed, an image of our legs wrapped around each other's heads, an image of me approaching from behind, and an image of you dancing naked on my spine. We stay at Dante's until closing time. I insist on giving you a ride, but you decline. You walk off into the cruel night and never look back. I'm left to befriend the shadows. I sit in my empty car, turn the key in the ignition, chew up the parking fine, and spit the shreds out the window.
You remind me of a man I fell in love with. He was beautiful and I adored him. Starfish hands and legs of a long-distance runner. I secretly worried that anyone that perfect might lack imagination. But I was wrong. He had plenty of imagination. The man turned out to be a thief. Oh, he didn't steal from the quotidian world. Wouldn't deal with anything that prosaic. This Lothario was after much finer stuff. He was the architect of elaborate schemes, a purveyor of dreams. Where Orchard Street meets Stanton on the Lower East Side in Manhattan, Jesse was hovering on the outer reaches of space, plying his trade with a battered old tenor hung from his lips. We listened in awe as freshly minted Coltrane came tumbling out of a skinny white junkie jazz boy. He was blowing notes so fast they didn't have time to hover in the thick August air. The music evaporated, mingling forever with the tired cries of leather traders, hawking their wares in the hope of one last sale before pulling their shutters for the night. The man was truthful from the start. I asked him what he did and he told me. The word that momentarily caught my breath was smuggler. I asked him what he smuggled. Without taking his eyes off mine and gently rolling the ice around his glass, he informed me that there were only 3 things in this world worth smuggling: drugs, weapons, and people. I should have walked. But he asked me to dance. The band played and we swayed to Jesse's blues. That beautiful, beautiful lost boy, painting the sky with his pain, bent Notes chasing seagulls, winging their way home to roost on the Brooklyn Bridge. He traced a line down the back of my neck. And as we kissed, he asked, "What kind of a love makes a man build the Taj Mahal?" I was a journeyman myself and far from the lucky country, and we were close to Chinatown, but he assured me he was not a snakehead like that Sister Ping. That golden venture ran aground within sight of the Statue of Liberty. Remember? A mutinied rust bucket, beached on a sandbar under a full moon, 300 yards shy of freedom. A belly full of flesh. Some died trying to swim the freezing waters. The rest languished in an upstate jail for more than 4 years, crafting origami on any piece of paper they could get their yellow hands on. He made my skin sing. But he was a coyote, baying on the borders of Mexico. He would howl and say, "This is not to be compared with human trafficking. I provide a service." Yeah. Leading the blind, stumbling through the wilds of the Arizona desert in search of a better life. Like I said, he was a thief.
With these slants, it's funny. Like, IQ gives you a 3-minute limit, which, like, you know, and you think that's barely enough. The first time I went to the slant, they gave me 2 minutes, and that's just crazy, man. Because what the hell can you say in 2 minutes? Are they enough? I mean, 2 minutes are not enough to say all I want to say. Not enough to contain all the tears and sorrows of a war-troubled race, or recover a lost soldier's features from his grieving mother's face. 2 minutes are not enough to capture the heartbreak of betrayal, when families cease to be what they should have been because someone couldn't stop for 2 minutes to think about what they were really doing and who they were causing pain. 2 minutes are not enough to tell the story of the young girl who lost her brother because of unforgiving circumstance, having to go to school each day pretending it was all okay, or the young girl who lost her father after a harsh struggle of 2 years, never receiving the miracle for which she prayed, but still finding some strength in her shattered heart not to lose her faith. 2 minutes are not enough to understand how people in the most desperate situations can still manage to find refuge in what they feel to be God's grace, and still manage to thank Him and find enough of a melody in their hearts to transform their words of prayer into sublime chants of praise. 2 minutes are not enough to imagine what goes on in the mind of an artist as he envisions a picturesque idea and guides his arms towards a new creation, crafting canvas rainbows out of fallen drops of emotional rain, and painting a new picture of hope out of a vision of merciless reality. 2 minutes are not enough to portray the splendor of the image of the young lady tickling the keys of her baby grand piano as she turns silence into stories, singing of the past that she left behind that still shapes her future with words engraved at the back of her mind like landmarks on memory lane. I mean, for me, 2 minutes are not enough to tell you about the woman I want to love and why I will spend my life with her, even if I still don't know her name. Not enough to tell you about the 3 kids we'll one day have together and why we'll love them like crazy even when they drive us insane. Matching her smile with my lips, my walk with her hips, my kiss to her cheek, and her blood through these veins. 2 minutes? What do you think? Are they enough? Hell no. Hell no.
Take it from me, one punch can be lethal. Thrown in anger like this, without warning, without any gloves, it can be deadly. One punch can end his life and ruin yours. It takes grunt to throw it, it takes guts to walk away.
Most of us experience life's ups and downs, but we can always appreciate the finer details that make life worth living. But for 1 in 5 of us, mental illness can make us lose sight of the big picture. That's when Paran Mission can lend a helping hand. We've been caring for the community for over 60 years, finding a place for people with no place. Show your support and stand up for mental illness. Visit our website and make a donation today.
Special Joy, Wellbeing, Community, Inclusion.
Special Olympics is a global movement for people with an intellectual disability, creating a world of inclusion and community through sport, where every person is accepted and welcomed, regardless of ability. One athlete, one volunteer, one family member at a time, helping to make the world a better place. Join the inclusion revolution by supporting Special Olympics.
And choose to include.
Each week on MELfeed Video, join us for Northern Access Television's general interest chat show, NAT Chat. Each episode features interesting and informative interviews from people of all walks of life. Weekly topics include community groups, religious topics, and professional people covering many different subject areas. That's NAT Chat every Monday night at 8 p.m. here on MELfeed Video.
What good are the intelligentsia when they can't even break bread and talk to you about real stuff like work in life, the price of fish, the result on the weekend? Fucking pretentious cunts who sip cafe latte and Chardonnay with manicured left hands, with no idea about real struggle, armed with a remote control, always on the safe side of the flat screen TV, false revolutionaries who always vote green, post-materialists who are sick of greed but drive BMWs, Audis and Mercedes. What is the point of a higher education when you cannot speak to victims in a language that they can comprehend? How can you be a friend when you speak in terms that no one can comprehend? Why be intellectual when you can be practical? Why be philosophical when you can be factual? Why be religious when you can be spiritual? Why be ethical when you can be real?
This house was a home. Long before they tore down the walls, bulldozers now cast threatening shadows where burdened backs once sought comfort, where wearied heads once rested. The trees, the sun, the wind and the stones paid homage to the grandfathers and grandmothers of before. Children played the same games their ancestors were taught. Together they sang beneath the shelter of the olive groves. But when the burdens of the unavoidable future crossed over into this unspoiled world, children had to forget their games and protect their homes. She left her doll beneath the weeping olive grove. He put away his soccer ball. They became stand-ins in this ugly, grown-up world. Bright eyes have lost their glow. Innocence doesn't live here anymore. Occupied territory is the clinical term. Not childhood lost, not living rooms turned into rubble and dust. Occupied territory is the clinical term. Not refugees on their own land, not history and truth buried beneath the scorching desert sands. Mama or Baba cram 7 generations of existence into gaping suitcases, 7 generations of first steps and deaths, 7 generations of grazed knees and hard aches, 7 generations of oud and poetry, of 7 generations. Now each hollowed room is empty. The silence is deafening. But if you pause time and listen for the light, if you stand directly to the right of the now demolished pipes and tiles, you can still hear and feel the vibrations, the tiny atoms that bear witness to this family's existence, the comforting aroma of mama's spice-infused ahwa, the scent of cardamom still lingers in this now cement wreck where boulders replace pantries and family meals are but hazy and distant memories, where smashed glass and bricks now cover every inch, where the ceiling now rests on the floor amongst the toys that belong to children now gone. So enter this place in peace. I say enter this place in peace. Tread lightly so as not to disturb this makeshift tranquility. This void of humanity is a landmine of forgotten birthdays and anniversaries. Baba's haunting voice still echoes in these ruins. So spare a moment to hear the stories that he once told his children. Stories of brave and gallant Bedouins, 1001 Arabian nights that could turn princes into thieves and cobras that could charm grown men and bring them to their knees. Kan ya makan for Qadim az-Zaman is how his tall tales always began. But these days, heroes are barely in their teens. These days, life is about survival by any means. This house was a home long before they tore down the walls. Piercing screeches that are birthed in the most primal places are now woven into intricate blood-stained carpets. Neighbours look on, offering strong forearms to the weak, wiping away tears as they ceaselessly stream. So turn away, you fortunate few. Count your blessings as you change the channel to avoid the troubling news. Pray that the night will absolve you of your neglect. Pray that your conscience will be cleansed. But pray not for history to forget, for the trees, the sun, the wind, and the stones will remind our children's children's children that this pile of rubble was once a home.
Harmony in Diversity aims to increase the awareness of existing multi- and interfaith initiatives. It encourages racial and religious tolerance. It understands various faiths and cultures by talking to people of various faith communities in Victoria. So be sure to join us Mondays at 9 for Harmony in Diversity here on MELfeed.video. Transports of Distant Delight is a mixed selection of transportation pictures from here and there and almost everywhere, but not quite. Some quirky, some mundane, some from the past, perhaps reflecting a transit system that has vanished into history, and some from thriving transport entities that continue to endure despite the constant pressures from the all-pervasive motor car. Enjoy. Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
Just got out, we're waiting in. It's just parked my car, we're at the Lotus for this latest fashion show. And what a glamorous event. Security. You security?
Yeah, I'm security.
Right, kick them out. That's the key, is distract the security so you can sneak in basically. the wine and champagne are absolutely flowing. We're going to see the who's who if they're here. Food is flying by. It's all going off at the Lotus. Now these are all the clothes. These are girls, the dresses. You're dressing. Now you've had the dry run. How'd it go? Stressful. Why?
Everyone's everywhere. Not enough lighting.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit hard if you have lighting up here and everybody's down there.
That's when they get dressed though.
So are the clothes really tricky to put on?
Yeah, it's because of all the bodices and stuff. It's just really hard to put on.
Where are you going?
I'm fantastic.
So what have you been up to?
I'm doing the dressing too.
Oh, tough choice, isn't it? Difficult?
Yeah, but you know, when you want to get into fashion, you've got to start somewhere, don't you?
You're big into fashion?
Yes, I am.
Yes.
Hoping to be.
Where does the passion come from?
Within, of course, within.
Ah.
Just born with it.
What do you think of the gowns?
I love them. I love the denim section.
Oh yes, and the girls love them too,
I
actually.
do the embroidery on all the bodices.
Oh, okay.
Gorgeous.
Now, who slashed your top? Did you do that?
Had a little bit too much fun last night.
Oh, okay. Shall we not say any more? Wow, yeah, we know the camera loves you.
Oh, really?
Is that you?
That's
Do you need to
me.
get that?
And who's that? That's Mum.
Hey, Mum. We'll wait for this call.
Hi, Mum.
Hi, Mum. I'm at the show. I'm going really well. I'm just being interviewed for TV at the moment.
For TV at the moment. And should I say hi?
Say hi.
Mum, say hi. Say hello.
There you go. Mum's on the phone. Okay, she's finished the call. We've come back. How's Mum going?
Mum's great, yes. My
very
sister's
concerned.
in trouble. She's a bit concerned. My sister's in the parade
Yes,
today.
I was going to say you're doing the family affair thing.
Doing the family thing today,
Bringing
yeah.
the sister into the world of modelling. Why?
It's fun, and we partner up together, and
That's great. And you can look after her, can't you?
oh, she looks after me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, what have you been a bad girl, have you?
Oh, I just tend to go astray sometimes,
Yes.
and you just need her there to get you into line.
Now, how's your career going? You've did the catalogue, the whole calendar thing.
Yes. I'm still modelling full time, but I'm studying now as well. So studying dietetics.
Okay.
And our dream is to open up a day spa or a health retreat together.
Well, there you go. So this is like a fashion cafe,
got a
but
5-year plan.
get the models out there doing their own day spa, and I think we'd love to have that.
That's it.
And I'm sure everybody would love to be pampered by you.
Oh, thank you, darling.
I'll book in now.
Well, you can come down. You get special treatment.
Excellent. kicking back here. Now, you're from Greece and you've come all the way here to see this show?
Absolutely.
Get out of here.
Miss it.
Now, this label's actually in Athens.
It is very popular.
Very popular. Do you have any items yourself?
I do, actually.
Oh, okay. I suppose you're not wearing them tonight.
Because it's very cold.
It is cold and they are very revealing. How successful is this label in Athens? Do you see it everywhere?
So, yeah, especially amongst the young girls.
And price point?
Like myself.
Oh, I like yourself. How old are you?
40.
40, get out of here. Can you believe this girl's 40? Unbelievable. You're holding up very well.
I am actually.
And you'd probably look sensational in one of these outfits on a nice hot day. Yes.
No.
No. Oh, you're too modest. Expensive label?
I wouldn't say cheap.
Yeah.
But not expensive.
Yeah. Affordable because you got to look good. Well, thank you. And when are you flying back to Athens?
In October.
October. Oh, you're here for a while then. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, enjoy your trip. Now this show, pretty glamorous place to have a show.
It's very, very glamorous.
And glamorous clothing. Are you going to be out there buying some of it?
Oh, definitely. Most definitely. I've been fortunate enough to have a sneak preview of some of it, and it's sensational.
You trying anything on out the back? Or?
No, not yet.
Snuck one out?
I haven't been that lucky yet.
Oh, okay.
I certainly will get in there first, though.
Why aren't you modelling then?
They're all size 1s.
Oh.
All the garments they actually got were size 1s.
Not real size then?
So I'm too broad across the back for their garments.
I know how you feel. It's terrible. Well, enjoy it.
Thanks very much.
Now tell me about what you're wearing.
I've got a red dress on.
Oh, you've got a red dress on. Are you a fashion victim?
No.
No? I thought every woman would be a fashion victim. No? So what brings you here then?
I'm here with a modelling company.
Oh, okay. So you're a model then?
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 15.
15. Far too young yet. Oh, unbelievable. They get younger every year, I think, don't they? They get absolutely young. Your mum?
No.
No? Friend?
I'm actually a booking agent, CPA.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. I'm blaming you for this then.
Okay.
Why so young?
It's actually necessary to start training quite young because you have to. It's a very articulate kind of form of art with the catwalk that we train them in.
Okay.
So when they start young, they get a very good grounding.
And what is it? Size as well? Their build? Because obviously, as women get older, they change shape a little bit. But
some do. It's actually very hard to find people who have the height and the spine bones that go with it. So yes, their shape does change as they grow older.
I mean, look at these fine bones. Fine bones. Sheer class. Well, thank you. Which agency are you with?
Paul Roberts International.
Okay. Cast me. How are we going?
Good, thanks.
How'd you get this gig?
How did I get it? I went to a casting on Thursday.
Okay.
Tried on a few clothes, walked up and down a few times.
Oh, it's that easy. Up and down, a couple of spins and away you go. So what do you think of the clothing?
Yeah, it's actually really nice. The jeans are really, really long, which is great for us because it's hard
for tall girls.
Yeah.
What, do you find that jeans in general aren't that long? Do you have trouble getting jeans on?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So what else do you like about it?
And the built-in underwear is great. The built-in bra.
Fantastic. You have a choice with the built-in bra whether you want the pad in there or the pad out. Is this a plus? For girls in general, not necessarily models, but as a girl yourself, important to have breasts. To use that. Do you use that as the power of the breast, or when putting it out, do you think it's an important thing?
Not particularly.
No? Well, what about when it comes to guys?
When it comes to guys?
Yeah, like obviously...
I don't want the attention to
Oh,
tell
you
the
don't?
truth.
Oh, really? She's shy. I think I got a shy one here.
I couldn't believe clothes could do that to breasts. I thought they looked fantastic.
What were you looking at mainly?
I mean, it was fashions. Fashions are important. Wait, camera.
Fashions were the winner today. Yeah, fashion was the winner?
Yes.
But, you know, why are you looking at girls' fashion?
Oh, well, we're up-and-coming designers.
Oh, okay.
We're trying to break into the industry, mainly.
Doing what, men's or women's?
It's the whole free drinks kind of fashion parade sort of thing, but, you know.
I mean, if you're going to bluff, you've got to do it right. Well, enjoy. To run into you everywhere. You following me or what?
I am.
Now tell me about what you're wearing. I mean, they're a great set of tits. I mean, did I say that?
Are they too out for day, do you think?
They're out there. They are out there. What are you trying to say by this outfit? Hello, the headlights are on and...
I have breasts and I'm not afraid to use them.
Use them. Are they all real?
They're all mine.
Are you sure?
You should know, darling.
Should I? They are real. Can you believe that? Absolutely real. God, I love my job. Oh, excuse me, sorry.
So what we've come down to now.
The hostess with the mostest.
How are you?
Good. Now, how's it been going?
Fantastic. Just
I need
absolutely
to know
wonderful.
the who's who that's here.
The who's who. We cannot disclose this information.
I have to go out and
Have
seek
to wait
them.
and see.
Oh, okay.
Definitely.
Now, why are you behind the counter and not up on the catwalk?
Okay, I asked myself the same question.
Yeah, beautiful
God.
young ladies like yourself.
Oh, well, next time,
Next
I think.
time. I'll have a private viewing. I live around the corner, so don't worry about that. Joined here by Vanessa and Georgia. Now you're responsible for bringing this label to Australia.
That's right. Cinema Haute Couture is an international label. It's all over around the world. New York, Miami, Athens, Milan, all the famous fashion catwalks.
How hard is it to bring a label over?
I think it's quite difficult, actually.
You spent how many months doing that?
Well, we've spent at least 6 months organising, bringing the label over. And initially, it was something that it was just an idea that was put together, and finally it's come through.
So you're both sisters.
Yes.
You were just sitting at home thinking, what are we going to do? I know, I love this label, right? Who came up with the concept, your first idea here? You did. You're responsible.
Yeah.
So what, you were just bored or?
Oh, no. We've been overseas a few times, and we had bought some of these dresses in the first place, and the reason why we thought it was a great idea because they actually have a bra in these dresses.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it's a built-in, and it's a worldwide patent, and that's why I thought it'd be fantastic because us women have a problem with getting the right undergarment in the dresses, so we thought...
So being built in, is that difficult for a female to dress though? Because each woman is obviously different in size.
So we'll explain that. What happens is if you want the push-up look, they've actually got padding, so it gives you the push-up look, and if you actually have a bigger breasted, they take the pads out and you've got the underwire, so that supports the garment or the bigger breasted woman.
Now it is a bit of a power to the bosom in this outfits, and the girls look absolutely sensational. Now there's two shows, so obviously does it change between the day look that we did here today at 1 and then the evening show? Or?
Okay, it might just be jazzed up a little bit, but not very much, because we're still working with different coloured fabrics and everything, so we're having to match it all.
And you've designed it to the clothes. Obviously you've seen the clothes before the event.
Yes, and we're just basically going for something that's going to really match all.
Well, they look quite flawless. I'm noticing the makeup is very, very simple.
Flawless anyway.
Yeah, they are. I mean, what do you have to do to them? Virtually nothing.
Exactly.
So how long have you been doing makeup for?
7 years.
7 years?
Yes.
So is this a great event tonight?
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
You love doing it.
I love doing it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't like it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, and I guess the girls are going to love you for making them look gorgeous.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
I'm creaming my tattoo.
You're creaming your tattoo.
Yeah.
You got a tattoo?
Yes.
Or had a tattoo? Oh, it's gone. They don't like you having a tat. No. I always thought you were pampering yourself.
That was actually part of the routine.
Oh, okay. You did it so well, I must say. Well covered. You couldn't move.
Well, that's it. You know, I just thought I might put a little bit more extra work into it.
Just got to
make
see
it look
more. Because, you know, shots...
That awkward look, I think.
Well, shots like that end up going in the paper. And that's your stand, isn't it?
That's my stand.
You know, it's like, oh, that was the shot that went in the paper because she got caught.
That's it. And I thought, you know,
Yeah.
Naomi Campbell's done it. Why can't I do it?
Making it over herself. And of course, your sister, how are you going?
I'm very good. You?
Now, why did you get into modelling? Is this because of your sister?
I did. Yes.
Now, she's telling me you're looking after her. What's that about?
I'm looking after her.
Yeah.
Oh no, never.
Never? The younger sister?
Big sis.
Yeah. So how much do you admire your sister?
Admire her?
Yeah.
I think we admire each other almost.
So who do you think's most beautiful then?
Oh, hey.
The rivalry.
No
backstage bitch fight, you know.
No, we're the closest two sisters can be.
And you've also got another sister who's overseas.
That's right.
Is she modelling as well?
She does a bit of modelling.
Yeah.
Yeah, she also studies as well.
It's a family trait, is it?
A bit of a family thing going on, yeah. You should model too though, isn't he gorgeous?
Been there, done that. There's some seriously glamorous women here with some serious fashion going on. I love the jacket.
Thank you.
What's the label?
George Gross and Harry Hur.
Oh, lovely. And what about yours? Turn around for the camera, please. What is going on?
It is George Gross and Harry Hur as well.
You're bringing out all the good labels, eh, for today?
That's right, yes we do.
It's about being noticed?
Sorry?
It's about being noticed?
That's right.
Where are you from?
From Greece.
From Greece?
Yes.
There's a lot of Greece people from Athens here actually today.
Definitely.
And the label is in Athens as well?
Yes.
Do you wear it over there?
Yes, we sure do, yes.
Absolutely. Why not? And everybody's so looking good.
I guess we have to be.
Absolutely. The Greeks do it better. Of course, every party you get a little freebie bag. What have you got in your freebie bag?
Shampoo, conditioner, styling products.
You need all that.
I need it all.
Yeah. What do you think of the show?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Why?
Why?
What did you like most?
Well, we're actually hairdressers and we know Peter and yeah, he's done a fantastic job.
Just checking out the hair thing, really.
Well, the hair, the whole package, basically.
And what about yourself? What did you think?
Really good. Very good.
What about the dresses?
Yeah,
Get one yourself? Oh, you're save up. I think every woman needs that one classic dress in the wardrobe. Your hairdresser. Yes, yeah. Well, enjoy. So you girls are from where? Greece?
No, we're Australian born.
Australian born.
Yeah.
Descent of?
Descent of Greece.
Of Greece.
Yeah.
Is that where you went when you brought the label from, or?
Well, it started in London and it's manufactured in Greece, although the the lace is from France and the silks are from Italy, so it's a European.
We got to travel all over, have a bit of fun and bring it down to Australia.
Right.
First in Melbourne, which is fantastic, and I think that's great. Are you going to go to Sydney and other capital cities in Australia?
Yes, we're thinking of going to Sydney and then Perth, so they're the other two we're looking at.
Most important places, really, huh?
Yeah, Melbourne.
Melbourne first. Well, you got it. Well, thank you so much. It was a great launch and great success to you.
Thank you.
Now, where can we buy this?
At our Melbourne studio in Templestowe.
Yep.
And South Yarra as well, but at the moment head office will be in Melbourne Templestowe.
Yeah. And it's by appointment only, and the way we're doing it is that you make an appointment, we have wine and hors d'oeuvres, and we have a house model showing you the garment. So
that sounds good.
Yeah, so it's like the Audrey Hepburn style. We're going back to that style.
You're coordinating the models, pouring the champagne.
And I organised the running order for the stock.
Everything.
So
a big job.
I was a bit of a stylist on this one.
A bit of a hard work. We had a bit of a sound problem, did we?
Yeah. To tell you the truth, I haven't worked with this production team before because I only came in as a choreographer.
Yep. Ended up doing everything.
Tried to, but yeah, like I said, I haven't worked with that technical team, so I tried to encourage them to bring my own team on, and they wouldn't because of because
there's always political things going on.
But
so how hard was it?
Up in the end, but apparently one of the amplifiers blew.
Oh, okay.
Which sometimes you can't control. Like if that's going to happen, it doesn't matter how good your team is.
Now it's a tricky little stage there, and you've changed and you've broken up the little routines a little bit. I mean, do you find the girls find something like that quite hard to do?
It was hard because the dressing room was literally above the stage, and so they had to run down the stairs, and I couldn't be with them the moment they go on stage. Usually I'm there queuing them on, and they take that first step, they're on stage, where I'm trying to queue them up here, and it just was a little bit more.
All the elements, but you did a great job.
I could be downstairs queuing them, but
well, you got a couple of shows. You got two here, so second time right.
Should be good. But did you think it went all right?
I think it went well. It looked great to me. It looked fantastic.
I felt like I wasn't in control like I usually am.
No, look, all those little faults you never saw. You never do.
I'm really honest.
Well, you'll be right for the second one. Nice little outfits going on here. You look superb. How did you enjoy the show?
I enjoyed it very well, actually. Excellent.
Have you got any of the labels yourself? Any of the items?
No, I don't. Not at this stage.
So would you consider buying something that was on there today?
I would actually. Yeah, very nice.
And where would you wear it to? Glamorous events like this, though, wouldn't it be?
Yeah.
Very glamorous. Very Hollywood, I thought.
Moulin Rouge.
Moulin Rouge. Okay, and what are you wearing today? What's the label?
This one's a Thome label.
Okay. So you're very much a fashion victim in the world? Yes.
It's a bit hard.
What about shoes? You're a shoe victim as well, or?
Oh, within reason. Yeah.
What is it with women and shoes? I don't understand.
I think that I'm still trying to understand shoes.
It's not working. That's all right. It's about relaxing, putting your feet up. I wonder, what did you think of the show?
Oh, it was fantastic. I was actually a photographer today.
Oh, okay. What are you doing with that?
I was taking lots of pictures of the gorgeous dresses.
Why aren't you up there modelling?
I don't know. I don't really like modelling.
Oh, okay.
Getting a chemistry now.
Chemistry, yeah. Oh, yeah. So what, have you got any of these clothes yourself?
No, but I'm planning on maybe buying some. I just got the number.
It's always good to have one of those perfect little dresses in the house, in the wardrobe, yeah?
Yeah.
The modelizer?
You could say that.
What is it when women look at, they look through the magazines, the glossy magazines and all the models, is that something you inspire to be, or?
Me, not really.
No? You don't buy into that? Yeah?
When I was younger, I always wanted to be a model, but now, no.
Why is that? What did you see their life as?
Probably glamorous and, look at me.
After over 25 years of broadcasting into homes across Australia, the Minister for Communications, Paul Fletcher, intends to switch off community television stations by June 30 this year. Community television provides an open access, free-to-air platform for Australians to connect, to learn, to educate, to express themselves, and showcases our diverse and vibrant local communities. But on July 1, it will be gone from the airways forever. Instead, it will be replaced by up to 5 years of white noise. The federal government has no alternative planned use for the spectrum community TV occupies and will be unable to do anything in its place for years to come. There is no upside and no explanation. We ask Minister Fletcher to show his support for the remaining stations and to keep local TV on TV. For more information, email info@c31.org.au.
Get active, get social, get on a roll. For more info, visit skateaustralia.org.au.
Okay, Sarah, I'm going to order some pathology tests to see how everything's going.
Half the Australian population had a pathology test last year. That's you or someone you love. 100 tests are performed every minute, delivering vital medical information. From the moment you are born, your healthcare depends on pathology tests. 70% of medical decisions rely on information from pathology tests. Pathology is the engine room of healthcare. One small sample can reveal millions of insights all about you. Pathologists are your doctor's doctor. 25,000 people work to provide doctors with the answers they need to treat you. Australian pathology is world class. We may never meet you, but we see each of you as part of our family. Every minute, 23 Australians find out more about their health.
Good news, Sarah. The results show that everything's okay.
Pathology provides peace of mind.
I rely on Australian pathology.
Sign up online to support Australian pathology.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV. Live streamed from Echuca each week, MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV. Streamed from Echuca each week, MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
They say there's a chance I could die in a car crash, maybe even from heart disease, maybe even skin cancer.
I could die in a work-related accident, or I could die in a fight.
The fact is, the biggest cause of death for men in my age group is suicide.
Please don't let this happen to me.
You can do something. Lifeline believes that suicide is mostly preventable. Help us save lives. Find out what you can do at lifeline.org.au.
MELfeed Video is about to close operations for tonight, but we'll be back with you next Monday evening. In the meantime, here is a selection of programs that will be seen on our next scheduled web stream. You're welcome to visit our website at MELfeed.video for further details of this project. Until next time, from all of us here at MELfeed Video, we wish you a very good night.